Welcome to Alienware. This is one of the previous generation's Aurora desktop machines. It has been installed with dual Radeon R9s. I don't know exactly which chipset. It is a water-cooled CPU. It is a couple years old. Has never had a thorough cleaning. I've taken it apart and done a little dusting and blowing out, but it's never had anything seriously thorough done with it. So today we are going to clean this machine. It does come with the Core i7 from Intel. It is heavy as you wouldn't believe, probably somewhere in the neighborhoods of 45 to 50 pounds. The case design is actually rather remarkable. I like the way they've set it up. It's just not easy to get through. It's kind of difficult, kind of bulky, and there's different add-on cards that make the RGB lighting work and other structural support, so we'll have to work around that. But today we are going to completely dismantle this machine to the best of our ability in order to get into all the nooks and crannies, clean it out, clean out the fans, clean out the radiator, take all the dust, dirt, whatever else is built up in there, and see if we can make it run like it was brand new. Follow along with me. Where we're going to start is actually going to be from the inside out. So I'm not worried about all the dust here. We will get to that. We will make this machine look shiny and new. But the first step we're going to start with is cleaning out the internals, cleaning out the dual Radeon R9s that are in there, the heat sinks and such. We're going to clean out the radiator and fan for the water cooling. We're going to clean all the dust, dirt, gunk, whatever that's in here. The place to start to be able to get this open is with this tiny little knob here, which is actually a safety latch. It is a lock. If you slide that to the side, towards the motherboard side, that will unlock a lever that is built into this case. It's cleverly disguised as just another part of the case. If you lift up on this lever, you will notice this side panel will tip away a little bit. Once you have done that, you apply just a little bit of extra pressure and the side will fall away. Being careful when you do to keep notice of these contacts that will apply the control signals for the RGB lighting in this side panel display. We're trying not to damage those in any way. We will come back and clean those, and we'll discuss that later. For now, we're just going to take this and set it aside. Here we have the first look of inside this case and how interesting, uniquely, and fairly well it was designed. There are fans in multiple locations. There are some fans under here. There's a fan here. There is our radiator with the fan behind it. You'll notice it is actually quite well gooped and gunked up. There are more fans down inside for cooling motherboard, RAM, etc. The way to get to all these is you have to move these covers out of the way. Some are a little bit more intuitive than others. Let's get started. First cover to remove is the one hiding the video cards. If you move this with a little white lever, it will swing up out of the way. Easy peasy, just like that. The next cover to remove to get to the fans that are here has actually little squeeze tabs. If you reach inside, squeeze those tabs. If I can get the correct ones. Alright. This will lift up, come right out. See, here are the squeeze tabs that we were talking about. You squeeze them together and it pulls out. I will set that aside for the moment. There's another fan cage here which has more squeeze tabs to pull up. We'll have to unplug some of the connectors here that connect the fan to the motherboard for controlling it. The other fan, as I said, is here, which simply pulls up and out. We'll have to disconnect it from the motherboard as well. Power supply is here to be able to get to the fans and cabling and whatnot and the flotsam that has built up under there. Just simply a little tab here next to the RGB connector for the side panel. You pull up on the little tab, slide the case back, it comes right off. And from this point we essentially have all the access we currently need for now to get started cleaning out the fans, the gunk, the nastiness that is built up inside the machine over a couple years. Well, now that we have the majority of the major fans removed, including the video cards and these two airflow fans, I can now access pretty much most of what I need to be able to get the power supply intake cleaned out, get all the intake grills cleaned out, get the drive bays dusted and cleaned out, the motherboard fans for the RAM, the chipsets and the like, all those I can get access to and clean out. There's also another little tiny fan down inside here that needs to be cleaned and dusted. The majority of this I'm going to use just simple canned air. I tend to keep a very large stock of this on hand. I'm going to try to blow as much as I can out. If you are not looking to disconnect every fan from the motherboard, you're going to make sure that when you're dusting it, you try to keep the fans from spinning. You don't want them generating electricity back into the board. You can blow out components if you're not careful. And so that's pretty much the next step, is try to remove as much of this dirt, gunk, and grime as possible. that we've blown everything out with a air, we'll try to go back over with like a standard cleaning wipe and try to clean off some of the not so delicate surfaces, you know, the cleaning covers and stuff like that, making it look nice and neat. If there's any more dust bunnies in there, you can probably pick most of them out by hand at this point. But just the canned air does an amazing job. You saw it come right off of the radiator, peeled right off. You saw I put a piece of paper towel in there. That way, instead of blowing all that dust back down into the motherboard and into the components I just cleaned out, it blew most of it down to the paper towel. I was just able to collect that towel and throw it away. So from here on out, it's just mostly cosmetic cleaning for the main body of the PC. You know, we'll just go through and clean off pretty much every surface that we can access, trying to keep, because this was one of those wet bleach wipes, I'm not going to try to keep it off of the electronic components, but it's just a matter of just wiping down surfaces from here, and then we'll dive into the fans that I took out and the video cards that I have yet to clean, which I'll do that after I can get this off of the bench. So now I'm going to just finish wiping this down, making it look all nice and pretty. Make sure everything is cleaned, ready to go. Make sure there's no hiding dust anywhere, no more fans hidden anywhere. And then I'll get this off of the bench and we'll get set up ready for cleaning the rest of the parts that I took out. And here's the majority of the components that I took out. Need to still be cleaned. Now this machine, these fans, is kind of an extreme of what you hopefully will ever see. Like I said, it's been a couple years since this has ever been done, so you have a whole lot of buildup on this, but hopefully it'll be just as easy as the main machine. A little bit of canned air, a little bit of cleaning wipe, and she should be good as new. Let's see how we do. Now that all those parts are clean, the next step would be video cards. Now, if you may notice, they're actually all covered up with this plastic cover. So in order to clean those out, we have to go through and take all these little tiny screws out, take this cover off, so that we can get to not only the fan, but also the heat sink that lies underneath of it, try to get all that cleaned out. And I've got to do that for both video cards. Get in there, get it all cleaned up, make it look nice and new, and make it work like new. So let's proceed. And there you go. Let me just finish up the last little bit of cleaning of the bracketry. make sure it's all nice and clean, even other parts that aren't electrically important. It's just part of being trying to make it be a little closer to professional, you know. Just take your time, clean things as you go. Even though the customer, the user, whoever may never see this, you'll know at least it's been cleaned and pretty much ready to go, so it'll last that much longer. Now, you may have noticed I've been using these cans of air. Just a little side tip: when you do use air, never sit and hold the trigger. Do it all in puffs. I don't know if you may have been noticing, I've been switching back and forth between two different cans. The reason you do it in puffs is so that you can keep using it longer, because as it drains and the can gets cold, you start to lose pressure inside the can, so you don't have as much pushing air as you would. So if you do puffs, it keeps the pressure a little higher, and then as the can gets cold, if you have spares like I do, just switch to a different can, start over again, and you get your strong puffs, and you keep switching back and forth as you need to. Other than that, I'd say we're ready to reassemble a machine. Let's get started. Okay, time to put everything back in. I think the first thing I'm going to do is memory fan. This one is hooked up here to cool at least these memory sticks. It doesn't cool all 4 of them, but it does cool 2 of them. It reapplies here. It's just a matter of fitting the 4 little pins back in and sliding it down. It should latch into place. And then it runs through this little cable management tie that I will close up in a moment, and simply plugs in here. Now that I have that plugged in, I can come back in here, and with what grace and delicacy I can manage, I'll close up this wire tie. Easier said than done, for sure. That took a little bit more finagling, but it's alright. Get it started, cinch it down. And that is complete. Let's see, I think the next one I'm going to do is the hard drive fan, which is this one here. This one is relatively straightforward, but there's a couple more of those similar wire cable management, wire ties, whatever you want to call them. It just slips down here. And passes through this little cable manager. And before I close that one up, we're going to route this fan wire the way it's supposed to go. What I'm going to do is go, I'll go this way. So it goes through the cable manager, through this little tiny hole in the case, there's another cable manager down here it needs to go through, and then we'll plug into the I/O board down there. So let's do up this cable tie. Again, these things are extremely fiddly. Get a needle nose for this one. Just very carefully get it started. And cinch it down. Very nice. Then you do the same for this one. Get it started. Cinch it down. Plug the fan into the fan header and the I/O board. And that one is installed. Put the wire down on the side over here. Like that. There's 2 down. Then we have the PCI cooling fan. It simply slides down here. Make sure the grill is facing away from it because you have these brackets for holding the brackets on the back of the video cards. So you gotta get this lined up. There we are. It slides down, clicks into place, like so. And you plug that fan into your fan header. Like so. And comes the video cards. So we will take their power cables and set them out of the way for just a moment. And then you simply take the first one, put it right back into place, slide it down to the nearest available PCI slot to you, making sure that this bracket slides down into the proper slot. The cable tie clip is giving me trouble here. There, like so. Make sure it's seated properly. I will screw all 4 in once I know that everything fits properly. Then we simply need to grab the last card and install it much the same as the first one. Again, making sure that the brackets are all lined up right. Make sure it seats into the PCI slot properly, clicks into place, and then I will install the 4 screws to hold them in place. I do wish I had magnetic screwdrivers, but the one I had disappeared years ago. I have not had a chance to acquire a new one. Don't cross the road. One more to go. All right. Now the next step, plug in the power headers from the power supply. And then we can install the rest of the covers. Let's see, I think I'm going to start with the power supply cable cover. This one was a little bit tricky, but here we are. Get it, the little hooks inside, slide it back over. It's in place. And this one is even more tricky, but you have to slide it under and around and through. Make sure the tabs are fed in, and that's all there is to it. This one has to be in before you close the large one, because this actually hooks into this one to hold shut. And everything's not aligned just yet. There it is. And with that, the insides are actually done. Maybe a little bit of dust. Oh, come on, you dust bunny. You're hiding. There it is. And then we can put the side back on. And then what we'll do is we'll finish up by using our cleaning wipes and just wipe the whole thing down, make sure it looks really nice and clean, and then be ready to install. Put it back into place, put it back to work. Oh, one thing I did forget. This will be easier with it open. It's our crossfire. This way our cards will work together as one. And install the crossfire like so. We can close that. And that is that. Let's get the other case put back on. Now the way this fits, oh, I've got to clean that. Let's do that real quick. This one isn't too hazardous, you just got to be careful with the connectors. This one isn't too disastrous, it's not too horrible. Remember, when you're wiping everything down, you want to try to get to as many nooks and crannies, anywhere that dust and dirt could hide. The more you get out, the longer it takes for it to build back up. Now for these connectors, if they're really bad and actually don't want to work, these will work just fine. If they don't want to work real well, you can always touch them up just very briefly on the edges with a tiny bit of fine grit sandpaper. It usually works best for me. I usually like the wooden one, but I have mechanical. But you use the pencil eraser on all the contacts just a little bit. Try not to leave any of the rubber behind. And you do that on both edges. Including the ones in here. Just a little bit of racing. because that kind of wipes a lot of the dirt and grime that has built up. And then this fits on. See, there is a ledge here, a little catch, that when you go to install it, simply make sure that that bottom ledge, that bottom catch, is in place, and it closes just like that. Now I'm going to go through, and the way you saw it, same on the inside of wiping down. I'm going to go through the outside, wipe everything down, get inside all the nooks and crannies, and just do what it takes to try to make it appear professional, make it nice and clean, make it something that you want the customer, client, friend, family, whoever it is you're doing this for, make them see that you've actually done something. You know you've done something. It's all on the inside. They're not going to look in there. If you clean up the outside, that's what makes the impression. So let me get this cleaned up and we'll come back. And there she is, ladies and gentlemen, folks. This is ready to go. It's been cleaned inside and out. Ready to go back to gaming, ready to go back to work. I'll be installing it in the other room. It gets installed somewhere else. But that's how you go through and clean even something as complicated as this. It really didn't take long. It took only about a couple hours of actual work. It really wasn't that difficult. Just a little bit of care, a little bit of finagling. But that really wasn't tough. If you guys liked the video, feel free to give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, you know the button to hit. If you think you like what I'm doing here, give me a subscribe. This is all about helping you guys, helping you out to how to do something like this on a budget. Do things cheaply without actually doing it cheap. So if you guys have ideas, comment with it. Let me know, maybe give me ideas for the next videos to do. I do have one more coming very shortly where I am installing a new power supply into my computer, the one I just did water cooling in the previous video. If you recall, the power supply fan had failed, so I'm putting an all new power supply in it, a better one. If you guys like what I'm doing, like I said, feel free to give me that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, keep an eye on what's coming out. Stop by Zyferus.com, throw something up in the forums. I'm gonna have I have them up and running, but I don't have much on it yet. I'm going to try to put a little focus on that in the near future. Again, links for my channel and the links for my website will be on the channel. Just stop by, say hi. Other than that, keep on going. Thank you guys for your support, and thanks for watching.